So, like I was saying, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it because, like, I don't know. I just feel supported when other people are involved. Like Ryan gets involved, and then like you're coming on to talk about, the stuff that we agree that we would get into with you. And
Mhm.
I don't know. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank me after the fact.
Yeah. No, I
Uh,
appreciate the fact that you did. What is that? Is that a
so I brought a photo because I thought kind of
yeah? Let's.
humanizing these two guys would be good.
Wow. Oh my God. Thank you. Is this
Yeah.
some? I don't remember him from work, but is that your ex-husband?
Yeah.
What was his name again?
I guess he's still my husband. He's never been
Yeah.
an
Do
ex.
you want to use his names? Because me and Ryan, we don't use names on the
No, I
podcast.
don't know what to say. What should I call
You
him?
could just say my ex-husband and your
Yeah.
dad. Like that's
Okay. My husband, my dad.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my wedding. And
Do you want to show it on camera?
yeah, we can show it. We can, if there's some other way we can.
Yeah. So I'm new to this, so I
Yeah.
don't have a way of like actually like showing it on screen like high quality wise.
It's
I will
more for
try to.
you, yeah,
Yeah. No.
you
This
to
is
have an image in your mind because I don't know, I feel like talking with people, they don't really see my dad or Clint as, ooh,
yeah.
bleep, as a real person.
No. Yeah.
And it,
I'm just gonna show it to the camera.
yeah,
Keep talking.
please do. Yeah, it's just kind of putting a face to the name.
Yeah. Oh, you
Yeah,
did say his name, so if you want to
I
use it
did.
from now on, that's fine. I don't. It's
I don't.
really whatever you're comfortable with. So
I'll just say Clinton because
yeah.
yeah, that's him. That's my husband.
Look at you, looking all pretty in
Yeah,
in
I
your wedding
know.
dress.
Yeah.
You,
It had pockets. It was fucking bomb.
your wedding dress is bomb.
Yeah, I had
You look
pockets.
so different. Oh, it's the hair. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
my hair was done up and it's a different color and all that. So,
Yeah.
and I was a little bit skinnier then. Not that looks it.
No, you look the same. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you feel like you look different.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. You were saying something, and I
I don't
just got
remember.
super excited.
Yeah. No. It was lovely. That's just my favorite photo, I think of. It's the only one I have really of the three of us and I keep it on my kitchen counter.
Do you want me to keep it, or you
No,
want?
no,
to?
no, no. No,
No, I mean
it's
like
mine.
set it down, not to frame and put on my
I
wall,
know.
but like
What, you want to?
no, it's all right.
Adopt to this. No. Yeah, I keep it in kitchen because I don't know, it's like I took all of my photos of Clint down when we separated and he moved out. And that felt, at the time, it felt right because I was trying to move on from him
Right.
and
So
try
just
to.
sorry, just so we're clear to
Oh.
start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Your husband is now late, like he's your late
Yes.
husband,
Yes.
and the reason is he committed suicide.
Yes, he killed
Okay.
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You say it's so harsh, like I don't know how I feel saying about like kill himself. You know, like it's. So
I'm sorry. Okay.
No, you could refer.
I
to
don't know what else to say. Yeah, he shot
Is that-
himself in the head. I
Jeez.
want people to know that's what happened. It's like, because when people die any other way, like from cancer, you say, oh, he died from lung cancer, liver disease, and this is how he died. And
Yeah.
He shot himself. So
Sorry, yeah, but you were saying something before I cut you off. You were saying like
yeah, we got married in 2011. Was that what I was talking about? I don't even
probably,
know.
but it's fine. Just roll with it.
Yeah. So we got married in 2011. We'd been together for quite a while, like 2007 to then. So that was 4 or 5 years. And then it was after I graduated college that we decided to, make that commitment to each other.
Yeah.
And celebrate it with our families.
How old were you when you guys met?
I was 18.
And he was how old? Probably the same age.
22. He was in college.
Oh, he was like 4 years
Yeah,
old.
he was 4 or 5 years older than me.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd already been through college when we met, so it was kind of like an interesting difference. Like, he was an adult and doing adult things and having a career, professional job, and then I was going to college and growing up and learning how to adult. It's kind of interesting. It was kind of like the person who, outside of my dad, introduced me to things like food, how to do your taxes. This is how you take care of your car. And it's just kind of interesting to have grown up with him, grown
Yeah.
into an
How old
adult.
were you when you guys actually met each other?
I was 18.
18, 20.
Yeah.
Okay, that's when you
Yeah.
met. Sorry, my
Yeah.
brain
Yeah. I'll
brain
say
fart.
that because we knew each other before, but it was more casual friends.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not like you guys grew up together or anything,
Nope.
or like childhood friends or anything.
Nope.
No. So you
Not like
met.
that.
How did you guys meet?
It was online
Yeah.
through, yeah, through a friend. My best friend in high school, she had dated him online, and we played video games together a bit. And then, like my senior year in high school, she reintroduced me to him. Said, "I think you guys would like each other. You guys have a lot in common. We're both atheists, fairly liberal views. We liked gaming. We were nerds and into books. So we just instantly
Yeah.
clicked. I don't know. It
Why?
just
I'm curious. Were you always an atheist, or did you grow up religious? The only reason I ask is because, like last episode, I kind of shit on
yeah.
atheists a little bit. Sorry, but go ahead.
I grew up atheist, I guess. I don't know. Okay, I take that back. I believed in God,
Mm-hmm.
and it was probably until I was in high school that I changed my mind.
You
That's a.
change. You're like, nope, nope. This is over. Nobody just controlling this. Nobody's in charge.
It took a while. It's not
Yeah.
like it was dramatic. It
Yeah.
was more. I never felt a connection with
To anything
God or
spiritual or like.
no, not. I won't say that because
Okay.
I feel like I can connect with people that way spiritually, or I have,
You feel a one-to-one intrapersonal connection
yeah,
as opposed to like going through a middleman.
yeah,
Okay.
like it's not a heavenly thing. It's more of a natural connection with people on the earth. Like that's what
Yeah.
calls to me more is
Mhm.
like we share the earth, we share mother nature, we're all made of star stuff. So for me, like it's a deep connection that we share as humans rather than it being a God, I'll put us on this earth to get along and treat each other nicely kind of thing. So it's just a different source for me,
Yeah.
maybe. um so I grew up, I was, my dad was atheist, and then my mom was semi religious. We never
Okay.
went to church, but she
What
told me,
religion, if you don't mind?
I don't know, just some off brand Christian.
Off-brand Christian. That's amazing. I'm gonna use that from now on. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were talking about you and Clint were atheists together, and you
Yeah.
met.
So
You had a lot in common.
we
Yeah.
just connected that way talking about it. It's not like we were like, yeah, we both like hate religion and stuff. It's more of I've read this book by Carl Sagan and it made me think this way, and he was like, wow, yeah, like I love Carl Sagan too. Like what he says speaks to me as well, and just kind of sharing those inspirational views, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you guys, would you say you hit it off?
Yeah,
You did
definitely.
hit it off.
Yeah, we clicked really well. So we met probably when I turned 18. My birthday's in November. And then about 6 months later, so he came down to visit me from, he lived in Salt Lake City, Utah. And he came down to Phoenix, Arizona for my graduation. And then shortly after, we found an apartment and moved in together.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were kind of inseparable after that.
Really?
Yeah.
How long did you guys date before you moved in and decided to get married?
I guess we didn't do any traditional dating. Like we were friends online and we talked all the time in chat or via text, and
Yeah.
we talked on the phone. We did webcam.
Mm-hmm.
So we would do things like we'd do a webcam and then watch a movie together and talk
Yeah.
about it. So that's like the dating we would do.
Yeah.
And so we'd hang out and do that or play games. So I guess we'd do it all the time. We'd hang out.
That's a really smart way of like dating long distance, I guess.
Yeah.
Is using the technology to like
Yeah.
make it work.
It's a lot easier to do nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a date, but like I guess it was a date where I met this girl back in New York. Sorry to cut you off, but
No,
it
please
just-
tell me.
it's relevant stories. But I ended up like hooking up my computer to my TV, and then share my TV via Skype so
Ugh.
she could see it. So we like had a date
Yeah.
watching a movie together. She was in her bedroom, like
Mhm.
wherever she lived in Long Island. I was home. It wasn't our first date, but like we met up a couple of times, and we ended up watching that movie American Pop that I lent you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she liked it. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead. So you guys didn't technically like have a period where you lived in the same area, but just met up for
Yeah.
like drinks or
We did not
dinner.
do traditional dating.
So as soon
No.
as he moved to Phoenix, you guys kind of like
We
he moved
moved.
he moved here to move in with you.
Yes.
I
So
see.
as soon I flew up there to Salt Lake and I helped him pack his things into a truck and then we drove it all down here. We moved into the same apartment at the same time.
Wow. So you
Yeah.
guys must have really liked each other. Like
I guess
sparks
so.
were flying everywhere.
Yeah, it was hot and heavy.
Oh, hot and heavy. Yeah.
Oh,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, it worked out. I needed a place to live, sort of. I was living with my dad, but it just wasn't quite right. And he wanted to live with me, and
Was it his idea to move in
yeah,
together? Okay.
it was all him.
When you say you and your dad things weren't quite right, what do you mean?
I
Your dad also passed away. Sorry, before you answer that question, your dad passed away like what, a year ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's still fairly fresh.
Yes.
Okay.
He smoked inside the house, so it was just uncomfortable for me. And then also, there wasn't enough room for me there, I guess, for me to do all of my studies for college in a private area. All I had was like one little bedroom, so it just wasn't comfortable. So
Okay.
I was thinking about moving out anyway, and that's
Moving in with Clint seemed like a good idea.
yeah,
Okay.
like why not? So I had a job, and at the time I put in for like groceries or whatever I needed. I put in money and then he paid the rent and all that. And I don't know. There wasn't ever really a solid agreement on anything. We just supported each other and
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and how old were you when you moved in? Like 20?
Nope, it was 18. It was the same year.
It was the same year?
Yeah, it was like
Wow.
within 8 months of like really hitting it off online that we moved
Yeah.
in. I know it was scary and fast, and my dad
Such a
was
young
like
age.
going crazy. He was just like, I can't believe this is what you want to do, but okay, like you're an adult and you can do what you want. So,
Mm.
and he met Clint and he liked him a lot. They got along super well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what was it like after you guys moved in together, and then like how long did it take soon after for you to get married? Like how old were you when you got married?
That was after I graduated from college, so we lived together for 4 years.
Okay.
And he supported me while I went through that, and I supported him while his job he had to switch. His job let him go. He was working remotely for a company in Salt Lake, and they're just like, oh, we can't do this anymore. And so I just encouraged and helped him to find a new one.
Just so for the listener, like
Oh,
anyone listening, like
sorry.
no, it's fine. You and I work for the same company, and that's how I met you.
Yes.
And then Clint worked for
the same company
same
as well.
company, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he got the job at our company,
Yeah.
and then
And I graduated college and I just sort of floated around until I got a job at a museum and worked there for a while.
okay.
Yeah. We got married pretty much immediately after I graduated. It was just, we were just waiting until that was settled. That part of our lives were set.
Yeah.
And then
Well, that's smart of you guys both of you to finish college,
Yeah.
and then get to like reasonably stable jobs, and then get married.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
It's
whose
all
idea
about-
was that? Was it yours or his?
it was mutual.
It was mutual.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like you guys are on the same page for so far.
Yeah,
And,
definitely.
yeah.
And I don't know. So I worked for the museum for a while, and then at some point I just couldn't. It was just too much for me. Like that place just it was wonderful and amazing, but I was just working way too much, and it was affecting my health physically and mentally.
Oh, working at the
Yeah,
was
the
just stressful
Yeah, like being thrown under the bus occasionally
at a museum
by my
It's so
creative
quiet.
director. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he was a jerk, still is. And I loved the other people though that I worked with, it was just not. It's just a nonprofit, not being paid enough, and then being overworked because it's a nonprofit, so they can only afford like half as many employees as a normal company. So, um, and then that's when Clint said, "Hey, you should come work where I work. It's pretty awesome." I'm like, "Oh, cool." So he kind of put my name into a recruiter, and I applied separately anyway, and then I got the job there. And that was interesting, working at the same company with my spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I met my ex-wife. I'm we were 19 when we were both in college, our community college, but
Mhm.
we used to both tutor at the same department,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
that's how we
What
started.
subject?
I used to do math and
Really?
statistics, like algebra, trigonometry, and statistics. I can't remember any of it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
I was going to say I didn't catch you as a math nerd.
I wasn't. I was just I got good grades in math, so
Yeah.
and that's all I was. And I needed a job, and it was community college, so like
Cool.
I was reasonably, in tune with the knowledge of math. I don't want to say,
Yeah.
you know. But anyway, so we met and we would just hang out all day together and get food together, and then of course like um we just kind of bonded. And she would like call me every night at 9 p.m. and I would just like talk to her because she was like my only friend, I guess, because I was fairly new to New York and so was she. Um, and then that's how we ended up dating, just like working together. But
Yeah.
sorry, I just threw that in there. Go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting like planning lunch, and
Yeah.
carpooling to and from work and
Yeah.
figuring that out together. Oh my god. We probably would have been better off working at different companies to
You
be
think so?
honest. Yeah, because of our personalities after work didn't jive. Like I want to get what I'm feeling out. So my
Mm,
frustration, I'd be like, I have to tell someone and rant, and then
right.
but he was very keep it to himself. He didn't express his anger or frustration much, and then he also absorbed all of my frustration and anger.
Yeah.
So we'd be like in the car driving home after work, and I'd be like, this guy, motherfucker, idiot, blah, blah, blah. And then
Yeah.
he would absorb it, and I'd see that and kind of, I'd feel awful because I'm like,
Well, you didn't know at the time, though. I mean, you were just like living your life, and he was
yeah,
living his life.
I really didn't know a lot of, I don't know, my
Yeah.
thoughts on things or upon reflection.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the luxury of it is like you have time now
Yeah.
to
Hindsight is 2020, right?
2020. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I do know what you feel because like a lot of my relationships, my 6 year stint and then the year and a half after, they were very talkative. And I just think it's a difference between men and women in relationships. Like women talk through things
Yeah.
and men think through things. Like
Yeah.
we just kind of process it. You know what I mean?
I
But
definitely agree
and
there.
yeah, we hold on to it. But I do realize like probably part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast is like women are smarter that way in the sense that like they help talking about it and hearing yourself talk about it kind of like puts it in perspective too.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of like made me a bad boyfriend in a certain way is just like not because when you hold on to that emotion,
Yeah.
it drives you nuts.
Well,
like
yeah,
because you're in your own head
you got,
processing
yes,
it.
exactly. You have to get it out of your mind so that way you can see it from a perspective that isn't distorted by your own
Right.
thoughts.
Exactly. Yeah, and I realized like you have to talk stuff out and it helps. And I realize now like the times in my life when I didn't talk through things,
Mm-hmm.
I was very depressed.
Yeah.
Very depressed. I was
Mm-hmm.
just like I felt alone in the world. I felt like I had nobody and just like it's unhealthy to like not talk about things. Like
Yeah.
as human beings, we just like really need to
Well,
we need each other. But go ahead.
especially in a relationship, it's like communication is key. It's number one.
Yeah.
And the main thing is to talk it through. If you don't tell someone how you're feeling or how their actions affect you, vice versa, then, you can never actually deal with it. And then you just hold it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know.
So you guys used to work together and you would ride
Um,
home together. And
yeah.
then like you wanted to do different things. And what was he into like after work?
Oh my God, video games.
Yeah.
Yeah, all
Well,
the
that's how you
time.
guys met, right? Like you used to play
Yep,
video games
we
online.
played them online.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he just kind of stayed the same person.
Yeah, pretty much. He always loved video games, and it'd either be single person and puzzle games, multiplayer with his friends. I'd join in. We'd have gaming nights with his buddies at work, and we'd play for hours.
Mm-hmm.
Just silly games.
Yeah.
Really fun.
What? How old are you when like? Was there a point where you, because you mentioned that what he wanted to do after work and what you wanted to do after work were started like became different?
Yeah, I would definitely say after I started working at the same company as him.
Was
Yeah,
that
about
because
then.
you're working at the same company? Or why do you
No,
think it is?
no, I think it's because I felt like I had more time. I could do more of my own things. Like I wasn't working all these extra hours for the museum. So I was like, holy crap, now I can actually do my hobbies, like watercolor, and I can read and do projects around the house, because by then we were purchasing a house and moving into it, and I was excited about that.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I wanted to do all that stuff. He wasn't so much. He was into the house buying. He wanted to do that, but I don't know. It was like after we bought the house, we finally had the keys and were responsible for it, that he realized, "Oh, this is a bit more than what I was expecting."
Really?
Yeah.
And how old are you at this point? You guys were
Probably 28.
okay.
Yeah, 27, 28, I
When you
think.
guys both, so he was, well, you're 28, but he had to be like what, 32 at this point. If my
Yes.
math is right.
Yep.
Um, so he's 32. You guys bought the house. Do you feel like he wasn't ready for that responsibility?
I think I think it was combined with not expecting all the responsibility of taking care of a house. And then shortly after that, my dad was getting sick. So the stress of like having to take care of a sick family member was being
Mm-hmm.
put on him as well. And then work got stressed also. So it's
Yeah.
kind of felt like
For
these
him or you?
for him, that these things kind of just compounded upon him and over time. So it's not like it was all at once, but it's like these things were happening, and near the end he was just kind of like, I don't want to do all of this adult stuff. I don't want to do all of these things that require responsibility and time. He wanted to do his own stuff and escape into his own reality, I think.
Yeah. And how
Yeah.
long did that happen from the point where like the you realized a change where like you wanted certain things and he didn't want certain things, and like the, I guess the beginning of the end, if I had to phrase it. I
Yeah.
mean, like, what do you think? Me, you said like things started getting more responsible. Like, what was
Yeah.
happening? What do you think was happening in his mind? I guess.
Well, let me we're going to backtrack a little
Yeah,
bit.
sure.
He'd had like a breakdown after he'd first started working at that company.
Mm-hmm.
Um I I don't know what led to it. I still don't understand. Um he was struggling with substance abuse, alcohol, and he was drinking a lot. I don't know if it was work that was causing it or something else, something more just mental himself. But he became like delusional and paranoid
In
about so
what
many
way?
things, like thinking that um, he was paranoid about his coworkers, like plotting against him or planning things that were testing him, like they were doing things that were testing his friendship or his ability to work or figure things out, like they were like playing practical jokes, but like they were trying to make a point. And then he also thought that like the government was had come into our apartment and like put tracking devices on his laptop, or was like
Was he
logging.
doing? Was he doing anything that would be questionable to the government that you know of? Like, was he visiting like the dark web or anything like that?
No, he never went there, but I don't. He got into conspiracy theories with the LDS Church. So maybe
Okay.
there was that. He was reading some like conspiracy theorist books about like government control and takeover, and then about the corruption of the LDS Church. He is from a Mormon family, so that Mormon religion was very like embedded in his childhood and his adulthood even.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Well, I
think
thought he was atheist.
He is, yeah, and he grew up Mormon though, and that's not. I mean, that was put on him as a child.
Yeah.
He was forced to go to church and forced to do this and that. And I mean, he tried, I guess that's what he said, is he tried to find something in the Mormon religion for him, but it didn't work. But he struggled with his family expressing that, saying, this isn't for me. This isn't working for me. Like, I can't find solace in your religion or any like
Yeah.
guiding whatever.
And what was their response to that?
They didn't like that, of course. They're like, well, no, you have to go to church as long as you're living here or until you're 18.
Oh
And
my
then
god, my dad said that to me one time.
yeah.
Sorry.
So um and then there's other pressure with that. That's just family.
So do you feel like in his older years
Mm.
he was trying to escape from the responsibility he felt like at from a young age, where it was just like this pressure from like people around, and then like now as he's an adult and he's functioning on his own, like pay
Mhm.
his own bills at least,
Yeah.
that he just wanted to like be carefree then and like lose responsibility in a
Yeah,
certain
it
way.
definitely felt like that.
Okay.
Yeah. It kind of felt like he was sort of giving up and not wanting to do things. We'll get to that, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, he had a breakdown just from all those thoughts. They were just taking over, and I noticed he was completely different. He didn't act the same way with me, and the conversations we were having were very um like
Strange.
yeah, they were strange. They were like a little out there. He'd come to me and say, hey, did you he's like, have you been on my laptop lately? I'd say, well, no, because that's your laptop. Of course not. And he'd
Right.
say, well, because I logged in and I found stuff showing that people were tracking me, and I found these files on there I've never seen before. Ugh,
Like
it
on his
was
laptop.
yeah. I have no idea what was the reality of it and what he was making up in his own mind. I would try to parse things together, like talk to him logically and work through stuff and say, well, like okay, you're a little out there. Your friends at work would not do this to you. Like your
Yeah.
boss wouldn't be running games that are like, to try to force you out or something. That's not what would happen.
So you tried to reason with him through
Yeah,
logic and say,
it's
like,
just
hey,
totally no, it
what was
totally
his
didn't work.
reaction though? Was he like, oh, you're on their side, kind of? Like,
No, he never thought I was against him. He just
okay.
thought I wasn't listening to him.
Hmm.
So he just thought I wasn't taking him seriously. So finally, there was one evening where I just couldn't take it anymore. It was just driving me crazy. And I was panicking. I was freaking out because I didn't know what was going on with him.
How long did it take you to get to that point?
A couple of weeks, maybe.
Less than a month.
Much less than a month.
Okay.
Probably within 2 weeks. It like really escalated quickly. His thoughts of delusion and paranoia were just intense. And it also took he was at work one day and something went overboard. I don't remember
Okay.
clearly to tell the story, but it something happened and his boss ended up calling me, telling me that they let him go home early because he was just not himself at all. So I think like that, hearing that someone else that knew him from a day-to-day basis could see that he was different and acting differently, like that really sparked something in my mind to do something about it. Because I couldn't tell if it was just when he was home he was that way or if things were actually that way at work. But
So you got acknowledgement that it was
yeah,
his frame of mind all day.
confirmation from someone else that he was
Right.
acting outside of the norm. And so I took him to the hospital because I didn't know where to go. Like,
Yeah.
I could set an appointment for a therapist, I guess, but that would be weeks. And then it's happening right now and it's all the time. I didn't know if it was from the alcohol or he was also smoking marijuana at the time. So is it that? Is it some physical illness? Because there are things that can happen that can cause you to become delusional that are in your mind that are happening to your brain. So that's why I just took him to the hospital and we sat in the ER for a couple hours because, he's not bleeding out or anything. So it's not that important.
Right.
And then finally he was admitted, and they scanned him all over, and they checked out his brain, and we were interrogated by multiple different types of social workers and counselors before they decided to send him to a behavioral institute. And
So sorry to interrupt,
no,
but
please go ahead.
so while this is happening, where you decide to take him to the hospital, what was his frame of mind? Because you kind of it seems like you took control of that situation
Yeah.
and you became assertive.
Mm-hmm.
What was his mentality and frame of mind? Was he like, what's happening? Was it?
The thing is, I didn't try to be assertive with him. I tried to be like working and talking with him, saying, you know, I am worried for you, is what I would say. Is I'm scared about you. You're scaring me. I don't know what's happening. And there would be moments of clarity where he would say, yeah, I don't feel right. You know,
He said that.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. Or he would say, he would see that that he was telling me stories, and I'd say, these don't make sense. Don't you see that they're crazy? And there were some times where
Did you
he
use the
would,
word crazy?
yes,
Okay. No, I just
yeah,
don't feel bad about it. I just want to
yeah.
know, like,
And there were very small, tiny little blips where I could see that he could see that there was something wrong, but maybe he was just lost in it. I don't know.
yeah.
So, yeah, I tried my best to
So what happened after the
convince
hospital?
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, like, let's like I'm really worried for you. This is scaring me, and I think we need to go see a professional. And so that's how I got him to go to the hospital with me. While we were in the waiting room, I had to spend quite a bit of time just re-convincing him to stay with me,
Mm-hmm.
that we were here for his health, because he would like lose track of time kind of and be like, where are we again? And I'm like, well, we're at the hospital because you're kind of, you know, not,
So at a
yeah,
certain point, it was clear that his mind or
Ye-
brain was
yeah,
not. It wasn't just delusion. It was like something
yeah.
misfiring. I guess it would be the best term to use.
That's, yeah.
Okay, and what happened next?
We were, like I said, he was admitted to the hospital, and they did, like, I don't know, scans and shit, whatever they do at hospitals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, they checked his brain, they looked through his body, they did blood tests, and then we spoke with different counselors. There was someone who specialized in substance abuse, alcohol, and he was really saying, well, it's the marijuana that's causing all this.
The
So
doctor was saying this.
no, it was a separate social worker slash counselor that,
Yeah,
so it wasn't the primary care physician who was working with him that was saying that.
a big case of the old reefer madness, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I highly doubt that. I think it. Did he drink a lot?
Yeah, he drank a lot.
Okay.
Like to the point where he'd be downing like multiple shot glasses of Everclear in the evening, and then like till he just passed out, blackout drunk, So
If anyone doesn't know this, alcohol does extreme damage to your brain.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's bad.
yeah. But so you went to the hospital.
Mhm. Yep, and
Doctors analyzed him.
yeah, and they're like, well, it's not anything physical. So the only other thing is to send him to a facility where they can work on his mental health.
Okay.
So that's why they sent him to a place in downtown, and that was kind of scary admitting him there, because he was if I could tell his apprehension going in there. I could tell that he was hesitant to give up his rights for help, I guess.
In the sense that
Like
he had to
he had to,
submit his
yeah,
responsibility to another person and
all
say
of
he had
it.
to take
Like
care of me.
he had to change his clothes. He had to sign away being able to leave whenever he wanted to.
Really?
Yeah, he could only call at certain times. Like it was all subject to what they would deem appropriate for him. Which, I mean, when you think about some of the folks that go in there or get admitted
Yeah,
to a
because it's a
mental health,
mental institution.
yeah,
Basically.
that makes sense. But I could sense his, apprehension and kind of fear of going in
Rightfully
there.
so. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. And he was admitted, and he stayed in, I can't remember now. Maybe like, it wasn't that long, maybe 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. It was short. The doctors told me it was short for how long people usually spend there.
Short in the sense that it got him back on track, or short in the sense that it wasn't working and he needed to leave? or like,
No, I think they felt like they got him on track on in a healthy way. I
was he allowed to
I
drink in there?
No, they control everything. So whatever you're eating and all your liquids and everything, no, there wouldn't be any alcohol in there. I think they allowed smoking cigarettes in certain places,
Yeah.
certain amounts, based on the doctor's approval. But yeah, definitely no alcohol. So yeah, he was definitely like went cold turkey as
Right.
soon as he went in there. Um, I only talked to him maybe a couple of times.
While he was in there, and you
Yeah,
guys are married at this point. That's
yeah,
your husband inside
yeah.
a mental institution.
I'd call and say, "Can I talk to him?" And they're like, "Well, no, because he's in here for his own health. Like he can only speak to you at certain times when they're allowed to, and only when the doctors think it's okay." There are like different, they call them like pods or sections in this mental health facility.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was admitted, he was put in one that was highly restrictive. So you have like a certain room that you have to stay in. If you go out into the open area, it's only for certain hours. Like you have a strict regimen of like activities, they say, or counseling sessions to go to. At least that's what he told me.
Yeah.
Um,
What was that experience like for you? Your husband's in a
I
mental
mean,
institution.
scary as hell. I was at home panicking because I didn't know if I'd ever get him back. I didn't know if this was
Oh my
permanent
god.
or if they'd be able to help him out.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was scary. I was cleaning the house nonstop. I couldn't figure out what to do. I was still working. I had to go with my job and go into the museum every day and deal with all that crap while doing this. Luckily, everyone was understanding and I could
Wait,
kind
I
of.
thought. Sorry, I thought you and him were already at the same company.
No, I'm sorry. This
Okay.
was
Okay.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead. So he
Yeah.
came. So what was it like when he came out? What did they? Did he? Was he on medication in there?
Yes. So
Okay.
they started him on medication and then they did different, like, I don't know, I assume they did some sort of counseling sessions. He honestly didn't talk about much of it when he came out.
Really?
Yeah, he just, I mean, he was a pretty private guy anyway. I know it was really hard to like get details and stories out of him to begin
Yeah.
with. So, and I can understand why he wouldn't want to talk about it. It made him uncomfortable. There were crazy people. Like he said, I'm sorry, that is totally offensive, and I take that back
It's finding the
because,
name of the podcast is who's offended.
yeah.
So fuck it.
And he's like, there was one lady who was like a sex crazed woman or something, and
Mhm.
she kept hitting on him and like showing him her underwear and like trying to get him to like interact with her. There were other
Did they
people.
have a common area where
Yeah,
they all okay?
yeah.
So this lady is just walking around showing
Yeah,
everyone her
she's
panties.
just walking around, talking loud, showing her underwear, trying to get him to, touch her and, do
Ugh.
stuff with her. I'm like, okay. And then there were other people who'd like try to assert their dominance over him, he said. There was one guy in there with him that whenever they would come out for like meals, he would always be near Clint and like try to like dominate him and like be near him and like keep people from talking to him or try to take his food or items away from him. Of course, there's only so far you can go because there were doctors in the facility there who are
Right. They're
monitoring.
monitoring. It sounds like prison
Yeah,
for crazy people.
but yes, it is.
Like,
It's
or
prison for
not crazy people, mentally unstable people.
crazy people.
Yeah, crazy people. All right,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah.
So they were monitoring him.
Yeah.
Like,
So it obviously it was not a super happy place to be. He got into another like section or pod that was a lot more relaxed, and that's when we were actually able to have phone calls and I could talk to him. And by then, when I was talking to him, then he was more sane and back to his normal self. I could tell like just the things we were talking about,
really?
or he was telling me like they were less. I don't know. There's like a way of speaking too that when he would tell me about his delusions or stuff, he would be very emphatic about it and kind of like anxious and worked up. And he was much calmer. I can only assume that must be result of the medication and whatever kind of counseling they were doing in there.
Well, whatever it was a combination of like the experience. So maybe just
Mm-hmm.
like not having the stress or responsibility of like
Yeah,
life, and then
maybe.
the help of people paying attention to you. And then do you feel like you got your husband back when he came out?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
And what was it like after that?
It was okay. It kind of went back to normal a little bit. He had some time off from work, and so he spent some time just getting comfortable around the house, and we were trying to do things to minimize stress between the two of us. So, you know, we worked on that, and then he went back to work, and it kind of went back to normal. We never really talked about it. I would try to ask him questions, but I could tell that if I probed too much, it made him really uncomfortable, and I just didn't want to do that. If he wanted to
Okay.
keep it private, then that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It sort of went away. It was kind of like a one-time incident. It felt like, until years later, when
Years later?
years later. So
Did he
that
did
was
he start like drinking or like so was he on
nope.
medication when he came back out?
Yep, he was on
What kind of
medication.
medication?
It was antidepressants. He had something like it was some combination of Zoloft, a sleep medication, and then something to help with his blood pressure because of the
Anxiety.
yeah, or
Okay.
something like that.
So
Again, not stuff he really shared with me. He didn't really tell
right.
me what his medications were or that. I mean, it's not like he had to, but I
Right.
didn't really know. Felt
And
it
they
was
weren't like
mysterious.
he didn't keep them like on the counter at home or
I mean,
like
he kept him in the bathroom, but I didn't know exactly what he was taking because
yeah, you didn't pry.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I let him have his privacy after all that.
Right.
And
So my question
mhm,
is was he diagnosed with some kind of mental like
when they released him, they said it was substance abuse. But I don't know. I don't know what to think about that.
yeah.
Yeah. They didn't really diagnose him with anything in particular. At least if they did, they didn't tell me and they didn't really say much to me at all, which is something that kind of irritates me about that whole experience is I felt like yeah, I was a spouse and they kept me in the dark.
Yeah.
I just felt like they wouldn't talk to me about it at all.
So
Kind of
they just chucked it up to substance abuse.
yeah,
Did
that's
they
what
chuck it up to marijuana or
probably a combination of both alcohol and marijuana. So after he was released, he had those regular sessions with the counselor, and she would check his medication, say, "Are you still doing okay?" and adjust it as necessary. And then they would talk about, stress, anxiety, ways of coping with that, and work.
mm,
And then the other part would be checking and making sure he's not drinking or consuming marijuana. So
yeah.
that was a regular thing. But that only lasted for a couple of years until he stopped having regular
Well, a
counseling.
couple of years is a long time to be
Okay, I'll say
mentally,
like, yeah, yeah, it is.
it's an extended period of time, I
Yeah.
would say.
I will say he went back to drinking, but it was a
What do you
lot less. It was lighter. Like he'd have maybe a beer when we were out with people or with family,
yeah.
or maybe one at home, and then that was it. And so I saw that was a big change.
Was there a period where he wasn't drinking at all, like any alcohol?
Yeah.
And how long did it was a couple of years, you think? And then he was like,
Yeah, it's
yeah, I'll just have that beer. And
yeah, I think it took him a while to become comfortable with drinking again. I don't know if he was afraid of it. Maybe he really just didn't want to.
yeah.
He instead went to marijuana and he ended up just more smoking marijuana more regularly
Yeah.
over time. Yeah.
So then what happened after the couple of years when he started drinking again? Like I mean
The
he wasn't drinking like before, you said. He was like very light on it.
yes, it was just social.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening like after that when it became like closer to you? So like how old are you guys at this point? Like still 28? 30?
Sorry, I have to do some math here.
Yeah. It's
We're
fine.
like jumping around.
Yeah.
Well, this was in 2014, so
For
I
5.
guess
Yeah.
what is that?
Quick maths.
So I was probably 26 at the time, around there. 25, 26.
Okay.
And he would have been 30-ish.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the home life's back to normal pretty
Yep.
much.
Pretty much. We're doing our gaming
Working.
thing. If anything, it's even better because he became best friends with his team lead at work. He was a software developer.
Okay.
And then he made friends with a couple other guys there, and we that's when we started playing games regularly, multiplayer with them. I would join in occasionally. I say regularly, he played regularly, probably every other night he was playing video games with his guy friends, which was
Okay.
awesome. Like, I loved that he found people outside of our relationship to have like special time with, because it seemed like he was like he didn't really have any outside friends outside of, like, we played D&D for a while, and then he had a breakdown, and then he just didn't have any friends for a few years or so, like maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and then he was connecting with his work buddies, I think, better, and we
Right.
were playing video games. And I don't know, it was fantastic because he was really into it, and then he also, that I could see his whole demeanor kind of change.
Yeah.
Like,
So he's happier now, and you're happy
yeah,
because he's happy.
yeah,
Okay.
it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then 2 years ago, I'll say 2.5 years ago, in 2017, my dad got really sick.
Okay.
He drank his whole life, and he had liver disease, and he died from that. And that was pretty, I think, traumatic for both of us because we were both there when he passed.
For you and Clint.
Yeah. We both had never seen anyone die or really
Mm.
kind of had to deal with loss yet. I mean, he had sort of, but they were extended family members. So, and he had become really attached to my dad. So, I
So they
mean,
were close. Like,
yeah, they were good buddies. I mean, it's not like they were best friends hanging out all the time, but
right.
they were pretty close dudes, I
Was
would
your
say.
dad more of a dad to Clint than his dad was? Consider.
No, no, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he still did he maintain a relationship with his parents, even though like
He had an okay relationship with them, I would say.
just
There was a
okay.
lot between him and his dad, though, that I don't think he overcame.
Mm.
Yeah. And that's back to the religion and the way his dad was. And his dad raised the boys. He was not good. He, you know, used corporal punishment against them. Things like hitting them with belts and steel rulers and
Mm.
stuff. So it wasn't super great, but it seemed like he was overcoming that, and he had a relationship with his parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So your dad passed away, and it took a toll on you and Clint.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
It
what were you feeling when your dad passed? Like
sucked. I mean, it was a huge loss. My dad meant a lot to me.
right.
And then it also sucked, like the sadness of how he died. I mean, it's never
Do you want to
it's
mention how he died or no?
I mean, that's it, is he just died from liver disease.
Liver disease. Okay.
Yeah, it was just the effects of it.
Was
It's
there a slow decline with your dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely over time you could see it. A lot of it was just like not being able to eat right. You get ulcers in your stomach and stuff, and
Yeah.
then your body can't handle and process all the toxins like it used to be able to because you've destroyed your liver, and his liver was pretty messed up. So it's like all the stuff that your liver processes and the liquids and everything, it just retains in your body, and then your body also retains liquid. So he was like having this buildup of all this nasty stuff in his body, and then it's in his lungs and he can't breathe, and then his own mind is kind of like going to,
Yeah.
I mean, so
Was Clint a part of that? So like how did
in the beginning he was, and he was pretty helpful and a part of it in the beginning when my dad was really ill and he wasn't able to get around at home as well. Clint would help out and go over and, prep dinner for him, or
oh wow.
would be with me. Like, we'd go over and have dinner every week at least. That was multiple times a week, like within probably the last 6 months of my dad's life. We were going over there multiple times a week to be with him or do stuff.
Yeah. Well, did Clint's personality change during that process?
Not then.
Okay.
Well, okay, I take that back. Yes. Near the end, I could tell that he really didn't. I don't know if he was just trying to disconnect or dissociate himself from my dad's illness and taking care of him. But yeah, he definitely kind of stepped back. And I think maybe that was for himself,
Mm.
probably.
Yeah, like just the stress of it all started
Yeah.
getting to a point where he didn't know how to cope anymore.
Yeah.
Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So then your dad passed away, and then
Hmm.
you buried your dad, and then like
I did not bury him. He was
you
actually
didn't.
cremated.
Well, look at. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm wrong. Thanks for correcting me. So
Yeah,
cremated your
we
dad.
did that, and then my family was in town, and then we tried to go back to life before taking care of my dad. I mean, it was 6 months of taking him to doctor's appointments and making sure that he's eating and staying alive and getting the health care he needs. So it was like taking care of another person, then he was gone. And then we're like, okay, well, now we have to go back to our life in addition to having to handle all the fallout from my dad's death. Um, and that was mostly on me, and I was stressed out from all of the I was my dad's only child, and
Oh, okay.
so
Were your parents together or they split?
they were divorced.
They were divorced. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And as the only child, I was the only one to take care of all of his things. That's his house, his personal belongings, and his finances, all of his accounts. You know, you have to contact past employers and get this wrapped up and that. And I have to find a lawyer and go through probate so I can get all of his, you
And
know,
at this point, Clint is checked out.
yeah. I mean, he was supportive of me when I was initially experiencing the grief and loss. He was there and would listen whenever I had something to say or be like, I don't know where to go from here. Or in the beginning, when we were first starting to clean out my dad's house, he was really helpful through all that. But I don't know. It's like I got caught up in that taking care of my dad's estate and his house, and then also trying to pull myself out of a depression and be healthy mentally and physically. So I was running regularly and I was changing my diet to be healthier. And I was trying to encourage him to join me in that, you know, bettering both of ourselves. And in the past, we were both very supportive in doing that, but it felt like he just didn't want to be part of it. He didn't want to like better himself physically and become healthier. I mean, he just didn't want to do it at the time.
What? Why do you think he didn't want to do that?
I have no idea. He just
Okay.
and
Did it all just seem too hard for him?
probably there's a lot going on. I mean,
Yeah.
he felt stressed because things were changing at work. They were changing the structure and management style, how their teams worked, and he was kind of adapting to that. Then there was my dad dying and the estate, and I was freaking out and doing all that, and I needed his help. Like, I just couldn't handle it all. So I was having him help me with some of those tasks, and also help, like, the biggest thing really was cleaning out my dad's house. I mean, he accumulated all this shit and he kept it for his entire freaking life. Like, he had letters that he received from people when he was in high school, and he had that stuff. Like, he had receipts for decades worth of buying things, and all that stuff had to be cleaned out and sorted through. And I feel like when we started doing that, that's when he just like stopped engaging with me and engaging with our marriage and life, I
Yeah.
guess. Um uh so this is like 3 months after my dad died,
Okay.
and Clint's brother-in-law died.
Oh,
His
his sister's husband.
Yes.
Okay.
So um his sister means a lot to him, and her husband was okay. We got along with him pretty well. He was an odd duck, and I think that's why Clint liked him. Is because he
Oh
was
yeah, they had like
yeah he was a
quirks,
yeah
shared quirks.
quirks. He was funky, like, you know, he was an odd one, so Clint liked him and gravitated towards him, I think. I don't know how much that.
How much the combination of two deaths
Yeah.
being close together,
Yeah.
people that he is close to,
Mhm.
and then you don't know what's going on in his head, how he's dealing with
Yeah,
the
I don't.
combination of his
Yeah,
yeah.
he stopped really talking to me. I'd have to really pry to get anything out of him. I'd be like, "Why are you like you're just sitting around all day now?" Like it's at that point where it's starting. He's just on the weekends didn't want to do anything, and he's just kind of sitting and sleeping, and then he'd wake up and then like doodle in his notebook for a bit,
Yeah.
and
What would he
then
doodle?
crazy stuff. Um, he'd doodle thoughts, things like. It's funny. I was looking at these today too. His journals.
Yeah.
Um,
You kept them.
yeah. I can't say goodbye to them yet. I don't know. It's weird. I can't just throw them away. Like
Yeah.
these journals, things that he wrote all his thoughts in. I just
I
can't.
think you sorry, you one time we were talking about it, and I think you mentioned like he drew a diagram that connected things of like this is connected to this,
Yeah.
but it like didn't make sense to you
Yeah,
or
no,
something.
it was definitely bonkers. Some of it made sense. Some of it were just like ramblings of him and philosophical ideas about what is life and all I'm looking for in life is to do this, that I'm just trying to escape the government control and the cultural expectations and I just want freedom to enjoy life as it is. Like, why do I have to commit all of this time just to surviving? Like, I don't know. There were a lot of rambles about that. And then, yeah, there were some where it's just like these doodles where he was trying to express an idea and then he would draw it out and they'd be like little those bubble graphs or like word
Mm-hmm.
clouds
Mm-hmm.
and he'd connect lines and then draw stuff around them and he'd have numbers written out and then he'd have like all these little notes that were just, I don't know, it was just weird. And I'd ask him, "What is that? What are you writing down?" And he'd explain it to me, but it wouldn't make sense. Like I understand having notes and writing them in your own little language, like shorthand and like doodling little odd things, like maybe you can't quite read the notes, but the substance you can get. And this I could not understand what he was
Was it a
telling
lot of
me.
existential stuff, like trying to make sense of like life and purpose of
It
like
was a
why
little,
we're here, kind of?
yeah, I'd say half of it was that, and then half of it was just weird, random shit. Like, he was really into quantum physics and science stuff.
Yeah, because that's a popular. All the cool kids are into quantum
Totally.
physics these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, he, I don't know. He'd buy like old quantum physics textbooks online and he'd like read them. And he had these calculus books and he'd practice the equations. But then the equations would like morph into some combination of like AI algorithm, like, I'm like, this is, I don't know, like he was trying to like write his own algorithm
Just trying to
software
create
thing.
something.
I don't know. Yeah, it was just confusing. Okay, I'm just going to stop there and say
It was.
I tried. Normally, when people have notes, they make sense when they explain them to you. These did not.
Yeah.
It was weird.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on in his head.
I know.
Like,
This is what I've been trying to do for years now. I don't.
yeah.
It's confusing. Yeah.
So anyway, so he's writing create notes in his journal,
Yeah,
and
and
then
he's isolating himself from me and then I could see from his friends he stopped gaming with his buddies. He would I don't know, he just kind of stopped. I don't It wasn't.
was he drinking again?
No, he wasn't drinking.
Was he still taking his medication?
I don't know when he stopped taking his medication, but I know he stopped taking
Oh,
them that year.
okay.
After my dad passed, at some point he stopped.
Yeah.
He was smoking quite a bit, smoking marijuana. I don't know how much that played into his thoughts because that was one of the fun things he enjoyed about marijuana is like all the mind
Yeah. I wonder
exploration
if
for
he's
you.
one, like, I don't know if this is a thing. I'm just thinking out loud. I wonder if, like, weed affected him negatively.
No, yeah, I do wonder that myself.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because, like,
Mhm.
everyone talks about weed and it's so popular now. Like, everyone, it
Yeah.
seems to have more positive benefits than negative ones.
Yeah, and it's
But I wonder if, like, the way he was programmed, however his mind was wired, that it affected him in a way that it doesn't affect other people.
well, I feel like any substance too, you can overdo it and it can have a negative effect. It can be habit forming, and I think he definitely formed a bad habit
Was he
consuming in
smoking
it.
a lot? Because I think they
Yeah.
say, like, weed is not habit forming. Like, it's not an addictive drug.
It doesn't have addictive properties,
Properties, right?
but like anything, it can be habit forming because you can it's more of yourself forming the habit of going and smoking this every day, where you make it available to yourself and you make it part of a routine,
And becoming reliable. You think he was?
reliant upon it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
when
what,
did the relationship become like an unhappy one, to say?
probably 4 or 5 months after my dad had passed, it came to a point where I was coming home and it was just he was unhappy, and I could tell it was radiating from him, and then I was unhappy, and that was probably radiating from me and affecting him. We weren't jiving like we used to. We would argue over a lot of little things. Um just silly stuff that we used to be able to laugh off, or things that we'd be like, we'd be a little bit, the shit that you do, like you're leaving your cans everywhere. Like, can you please clean up your soda cans that are all over the counters? But we had worked out a way to, I don't know, overcome those arguments and obstacles in a healthy adult way in our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But it broke down, and we were just, all these little things we would just pick at each other and hold things against each other, both of us.
Why do
Like,
you think that is?
I don't know. I don't know. It became harder to get along with him, like to tell him how I was feeling. He didn't seem sympathetic towards me when I was telling him about that, the grief that I was feeling about my dad. He wouldn't listen anymore. He just didn't want to be a part of it. And then he would hold things against me, like what I was making him do, or I didn't allow this to happen, when it's just, it was just petty arguments.
Yeah.
And I got frustrated, but
You got frustrated because things have changed. Like the
yeah,
reasons that kept
like,
you together wasn't there anymore.
yeah, we used to get along, and then we just didn't anymore. And I'm like, I don't know why that was happening.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we're going through a sucky time, and I'm like, okay, well, what we need is we need to talk to someone, marriage counseling. We'll go to a counselor, and that person can help us work through this. And I'm glad we did that. We did about 3 sessions. No, we did 4. We did
Okay.
4 sessions with a marriage counselor. And when we met with this lady, it would be together at first. We'd talk to her at the same time, and then it would be separate. So she'd have, like, 20 minutes with me and then 20 minutes with Clint. And then we'd come together at the end to kind of conclude the session. And we would talk about things like, what makes us upset? What do we think are obstacles in our relationship? And then what do we want with this relationship? Do we want to be together? Or
Yeah.
are we actually looking to separate?
Right. Like, is the common goal the same?
Mm-hmm.
Because if the common goal isn't
Yeah.
the same, then you can't
And then what do you need to do for that?
to
So,
get there.
yeah, Clint wanted to keep the relationship together. I was feeling like we were almost at a point where we couldn't. I wanted to try. And at the end of, like, at the 4th session, it felt like he just didn't want to put in the effort. Like, he wanted our marriage to last. I could tell he still loved me, and I still loved him,
Yeah.
but it's like he just didn't want to put in the effort.
Like, he was just tired of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, like he was just defeated by it.
By not just the marriage, but like everything, or
Yeah.
was it just the marriage?
No, I think it was a lot of
Just like
things.
all of it.
Yeah, all of it. Like, I could just tell from his posture and the way he talked that he was just not wanting, he just didn't care. He was kind of like, yeah, I want to be together, but it's also like, but if you don't want to live with me anymore, then okay. Like,
Yeah.
okay. He was just kind of, and especially, okay, so we did these 4 sessions, and at the end of it, I said, well, you don't look like, and you're not acting like you want to put in the effort to make this work. Like, you're not willing to talk to me and not willing to, sacrifice things to,
To get there, just like
yeah,
you have a goal in mind,
uh
but
huh,
you're not willing to try to figure out
yeah,
the path to that goal. Is like,
yeah.
okay,
And so I said, it doesn't look like you're committed, so I want a divorce.
how long did it take you to ask for a divorce?
It was in that session, the last one that I did.
Oh, okay. Did you
Yeah.
know you were gonna say that,
Yeah, I
or
kind of went into the appointment knowing that
really?
that's what I wanted. And after talking to her about it, then yeah, that's what we came to at the
And then
end.
what happened after that? Was it,
Then it was okay. We,
that was his reaction?
he
Okay.
was like, okay, yeah,
Wow. Sounds like he was going through a lot, and he just really didn't know how to cope with it. It
yeah,
just that's what it sounds like to me.
yeah. Like he just ended up, I don't know, he cut everyone out. He wasn't talking to family or friends about anything or hanging out with anyone. And it's like he just wanted to separate and disassociate from everyone and everything, just like not want to deal.
Yeah.
So I already had like a financial advisor that I was using for my father's estate, and she also did, what do you call it, mediation for divorce.
Okay.
So she met with Clint and I. And Clint was very, I think he just wanted it to be done and over with. He didn't want to fight. I think we were both done fighting. So everything that we decided on, how to separate our assets, everything we've accumulated together, he was just kind of whatever about. It was really easy because we both agreed on a lot of the same things. Um, so,
Did you
uh,
agree, or was it he just didn't care to?
no, we agreed.
Okay.
Yeah, there were things like we discussed the house for a while, and I said I'd really like the house because I'd invested more money into it in the beginning, and he knew that and he respected, like he understood that, and he was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then in exchange, he got other things. Um, and we talked about it. So it wasn't like I said, this is what I want. And then he said, okay, whatever. It was okay, that sounds good to me, but this, I want this instead, or we're going to do it this way differently. But for the most part, it was just easy because, I mean, um, we just didn't argue about it, I
Yeah.
guess.
Was it because neither one of you had the energy to fight about
Probably.
it? Yeah.
Probably.
So what happened moving on?
So,
Like you guys figured out the house and you figured out who's
uh
gonna get
huh.
what, and then
Yeah.
so you stayed in the house, and where did he end up going?
So he was living with me until what he decided to do was move up to Salt Lake City, back in with his family. He was looking for a place in Phoenix, but first of all, I think he didn't feel like he wanted to stay in Arizona because it just wasn't his home.
Right.
And then on top of that, I think it was too expensive and he really couldn't afford it. Like it's
Yeah.
um he had spent a lot of money and wasted a lot of it buying a whole bunch of survivalist stuff. And he
Survivalist. Huh?
yeah, there was he was talking about quitting his job and living, like exploring and like camping and like going around the country and then just kind of camping and figuring out where he wanted to live that way and just kind of living out of his car.
Like
Yeah.
a outdoor backpacker
Yeah,
adventurer
but
type.
less, he wasn't like a big outdoorsy person. Like he didn't like hiking and stuff, but he
Yeah.
but yeah, it was just
It sounds like he wanted to escape.
yeah,
Like he just didn't want the
yeah.
responsibility of it all.
Yeah, and so we settled. We figured out how we were gonna separate our assets, and then a little bit after that, we had a lawyer, and we used the same lawyer to file for divorce. And it's funny, she said to me something like this is so easy. Like I've never had clients where it was just so mutual and calm.
Yeah.
She's like, this is weird. Like you guys don't seem like,
The divorce type, like you should be on
yeah.
divorce.
And she knew us beforehand because I came to her when my dad passed for handling his estate,
Mm.
and she met Clint then. So it was funny for me to then come to her later and be like, I'm getting a divorce from him. And she's like, oh, that doesn't seem right. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So he moved up to Salt Lake City and then.
yeah, he quit his job, and it was kind of funny how it happened. He didn't rage, he didn't turn in a resignation letter. He was walking through the hallway. He came in like late, I think,
Yeah.
or he had
Was he
been.
still live? You guys still living in the same house?
Yep.
Okay.
He
Go ahead.
lived in the house with me up until he moved to Salt Lake. He was just living in one of the other bedrooms for the most part,
Okay.
and then we shared the common space, the living room. He I don't know. It just seemed like, well, the way it happened was his boss said, it doesn't seem like you want to work here anymore. And he said, well, no, I don't. And so he handed his boss the badge, and he just went to his desk and got his items, or a couple of items. No, I only, he just like grabbed his lunch and keys and then went home because they packaged up all the stuff at his desk and then like delivered it to him later.
Was it his choice to not grab that stuff, or was it a company's
I think
choice
he
to
just
not?
wanted to get out of
He
there.
just needed to get
Yeah.
the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was just like, I'm done.
So what was it like while you were living together, but divorced, and he quit his job? What
Oh,
was
it was
that like?
so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a totally different person. He was like a roommate, someone that I didn't really get along with living there. I mean, we did. We got along in some ways, like when we separated our lives so much that like we weren't doing anything together anymore and we were communicating over email and text message. Um that's when we started like getting along and being
Yeah.
able to
Being
talk.
civilized.
Yeah, but there were some things that it was hard. Like I had shared the house with my spouse and my best friend, and then he turned into some stranger. And
Yeah.
I still knew him, but he was acting differently. And then yeah, he moved up to Salt Lake, and we maintained contact. We talked probably a couple times a week. We chatted over Hangouts. That's how we talked in the past, and that's how we always like we were constantly talking to each other through our relationship. It was just like that's what one reason why it was so strange near the end. It's to like not have ongoing conversations with him,
Yeah.
and then to have him just stop talking to me, stop telling me his random thoughts or opinions on things. When he stopped communicating, that's when it felt like it was kind of over for me, and I knew I didn't want to be married to him anymore because he wasn't open with me anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and he moved up with his family. He was up there not not that long before he found a job.
He did find another job.
Yep, he
Okay.
found another job.
Was it something he wanted to do?
Yeah, it was software development.
Okay, so he liked software development.
Yes, he did. He enjoyed it. Although I think he didn't want to work still. I think he didn't want to do all of that stuff that he had to do. He also, after looking at his journal, he made like a list of things that were stressing me the fuck out, he said. And it was like all of this stuff, like finding the job, the divorce, the living with his family was stressing him out because they were like always asking how he was feeling, and he was isolating himself, so that was stressful. He The new job was stressful, I think, because he just didn't want to work, and he still didn't want to work and do all that. Like he just wanted to, I don't know, it's like he wanted to check out from life or something.
Yeah.
And
Ironically.
yeah, right. um and he worked at his new job for I think maybe 2 weeks. He got one paycheck, I think, before he committed suicide.
So how did he end up committing suicide? Like what led up to it? What was your guys' interactions like?
Um, I had talked to him the night before or the day before. Wait, hold on. I'm trying to remember now. Okay. We had been talking beforehand because our divorce was almost finalized. So it was
Yeah.
like we'd done all the paperwork, and I just had touched base with him to make sure he had signed his papers and sent it back. And we both received an email the day that he passed from our lawyer that was saying, just finish these documents. And now that the waiting period for your divorce is done, because they have like when you file for a divorce in Arizona, you have like a 30, 60, I should have looked this up.
Like that's fine. Like a
Yeah,
grace
a
period where they
waiting
say,
period.
"Are you sure you want to do this?" Kind of like is
Yeah,
that the government's way of saying that?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like, for the heat of the moment to make sure that this is actually what people want to go through with.
Right.
And that had finally come to an end. So our lawyer was saying, now that that's done, now we just have to sign the papers, excuse me, and,
It's all over
yeah.
once you
Uh-huh.
sign these and he signs
Yep.
this, it's done.
Yep. And I had messaged him randomly some funny things from Reddit because we both always sent each other like
So
random.
you still stayed in touch
Yeah.
somewhat after you guys divorced
Oh
and
yeah.
moved to Salt Lake City. Like
Uh-huh.
how often would you guys talk?
Every couple times a week,
Really?
and it'd be like I'd be at work bored and I'd send him links and then he'd respond to me and like say some things and laugh and share some stuff,
Yeah. Did he express any emotion about what was happening?
No. Or I'd ask him how it's going with work and he'd answer pretty simply. He wouldn't go into detail. He would just say, "Yeah, it's fine. I like it. I like my coworkers,
Yeah.
that kind of thing." Wouldn't say much though.
Yeah. And then so what happened?
And then um I I only know what people told me is that he he killed himself. He was in his vehicle and he was found on the side of a road. It was not even a mile from his house, his family's house. He was on the side of the road and he shot himself with a handgun. And the police had found him after someone reported a suspicious vehicle on the side of the road just
Yeah.
sitting there. And they had gone to his family that night, like midnight or so. So they found him, I think, somewhere around 8 or 9 p.m. And then it was around midnight when they got to his family and let his family know. And then I didn't find out until the next day when I was at work.
Did you
What
guys
happened?
talk that day?
Yeah, we talked that day that he passed. Yeah. I sent him a link to a funny article and he said LOL. And that
What
was like the
was
last thing.
what was their what was your reaction? Like how when you heard that, you heard it from his family?
No, I heard it from the HR people at work.
Wait, what?
So I had been out of the office and I was scouting a photo shoot location and I came back from that.
As part of your job.
Yep, it was part of my job. And I came back after lunch and there was a note on my desk and it was in my boss's handwriting and it said, HR wants to see you. And then it had like the floor number and then a name. And I thought I was in trouble. Like, I thought I was like, I had like, I don't know, done something wrong at work
Yeah.
and being
Like you're about to get
reported.
a disadulation.
Yeah.
um
So I went over to the HR department and I'm like, "Hi, I'm looking for so and so," and they said, "Oh, okay, yeah. Go into the big conference room." And I went and I sat in the conference room and then they joined me and they said, "Okay, well, we're not." They're like, what they say? They asked if my husband was named Clint, and I said yes. And then I they said that they got a call from a family member and that he had passed away the night before and that that was that the family wanted me to know. And so they were telling me.
so his family contacted the job
His mom called the company and told them
to tell you.
to tell me.
have you ever talked to the mom before? Were you in good standing with her and
Yeah,
discussing like,
it was okay. Like we talked occasionally. We talked a bit because she and his sister helped him move from Phoenix back to Salt Lake City.
what was your reaction like when you heard that?
Well, I mean, it was like I got hit by a bus.
Yeah.
Like the floor fell out from beneath me. I didn't believe it at first. I was like, "What? What are you saying?" And they're like, yeah, his mom called, said that they wanted someone to be with you, and they wanted us to tell you that he passed." And I'm like,
Did they tell you how?
"No,
Did they know how?
no."
Okay.
So they said, I was shaking.
Yeah.
I was, I guess, in shock. And they said, "Okay, we'll leave you in this room. We'll give you a moment." And they left. And I called up um, Clint's sister in law and said, "I heard this thing." And she said, "Yeah." I said, I heard about Clint. And she said, "Yeah." And I told her that I heard from work and she felt awful about that she didn't want me to hear that way, the intention was that someone would be there and I would be on the phone with his mom when his mom told me, and that I just have someone there with me. I think it just got lost. She just wanted someone to be physically next to me when I heard the news.
Right. So
But it got messed up, and so HR ended up just telling me.
how did that happen? Did his was it his mom that called HR?
Yeah, I guess his mom called HR, and then they tried to get a hold of me. And then
Why
when
do you
I,
think she did it that way instead of calling?
well, according to Clint's sister in law, it's because they wanted someone there. So I don't know. I don't know why she couldn't have just called my cell phone and told me. Like, I really would have appreciated if she had just done that, called me and told
Absolutely.
me.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is not how I wanted to hear it.
At that point, how much do you want your job involved
Not at all. I mean, I felt awful because I was sitting on this in the HR department. I was already like worked up because I thought I was in trouble. Like, I'm okay, I am a good girl. I follow the rules, and I am afraid when I am late to work. If I sleep in, I'm like panicking on my way to work because I feel like I'm messing up my job and not doing things right. So, like, I was already on edge for that. And then to have them give me this news, and I'm shocked and I don't know what I'm hearing. And then I call up his family and I'm talking to the sister-in-law, and then she's like, "Yeah, he shot himself. The police came and they found him and they came and told us last night." And I hated the whole thing. Of course, like, you don't ever want to hear that kind of thing. And it was in the most uncomfortable environment. I would have preferred that she called me so I could find a safe place to be, rather than it being I'm at work in an uncomfortable place. Like, I'm in a giant conference room with the ugly ass magenta color on the wall. It's not even a pretty color. It's like,
I like the fact that you noted that it was magenta.
yeah, it's like this disgusting, like, magenta color. And
Yeah, I mean, what can you say?
I'm alone.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm like, at least if I could have been in my car, I could have sobbed in my car. Instead, I'm in a conference room in the middle of my work office crying, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
So what'd you do after you like gathered yourself? I guess.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I called my manager from one of the offices in HR and said something happened, and I think he knew. He could tell that something bad happened.
Right.
He was understanding, and he said, "Okay, like, you don't have to do anything. Just come and get your stuff from your desk and you can just go home." So I did that. I kind of sucked. I did not want to at all go anywhere. I just wanted to cry. Like, that's all I wanted to do. All I wanted to do was like let the tears out. But I was holding them in and trying to keep from panicking. Like, I was feeling shivers. I was cold. I was like, my hands were shaking,
Mm.
and I had to like calmly walk to my desk and collect my things and leave without telling anyone why, because I didn't think if I opened my mouth to anyone that I could do anything except sob. Then I don't feel like our office is a place where that's at all okay to do, you
Yeah.
know? So, and then I just bolted to my car and I cried. And finally, I was able to start up the car and I drove home. And I don't remember what I did. I'm sure I just ended up crying all evening. I know I contacted people. I called my mom and I spoke more with his family about it. I got more details that evening about what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just overall it was kind of sucky.
So what happened afterwards? Because you guys never signed those papers, right? Like,
Yep, so we were still married.
so legally married.
Yeah.
So what's happened since that? Because this was 2 years ago, right?
Nope, one
Your
year
dad
ago.
was 2 years ago, sorry, and he is
It's
1 year
okay.
ago.
Yeah.
And
Um,
like, how do you even?
I know, right? I don't know what you would do next. It's like, what do I do? I had to go work the next day because we had a photo shoot at a orchard, something, a nursery. So I was there at work working the photo shoot in addition to fielding calls from his family about the service. Like they were already planning his burial and what to do with his body, and they were making decisions because his mom and dad knew that we were separated, that we were going for a divorce, and they thought that the divorce had already happened. So they were doing all these things until I said, well, no, our divorce wasn't final. And then they realized, oh, so we actually need your signature on these things that we want to do with his body.
Were they cooperative with you, or were you?
I
Do you feel like they were trying to leave you out of the
I feel like at
proceedings?
first, yeah, they were, because we were separated, and so I think they thought I wouldn't want to be involved.
Okay.
Probably,
Yeah.
I think it's more that way. Until I tried to say more, and I wanted to be there, and I wanted to do his the
S-
pamphlet for his
Yeah.
um what do you call it, burial, I
Yeah.
guess, his funeral. Um, I I wish I have some regrets that I wish I'd spoken up to them more. They were telling me what they were doing, that they were going to have an open casket, that they were going to bury him, and those were things that I knew he didn't want.
Okay.
And
So even though you guys like, it's so strange that the day that your divorce was finalized was the actual day that he shot himself. Correct? Is that
well, no, it's not the day it'd be finalized, but it was the day that we would have signed the papers.
right?
Yeah.
Right. The day that you
I
got
know. I
the
don't.
email of, right? So
Yeah.
at that point, did you feel still like he was your husband? Like you still felt connected to him?
Yeah.
So you still felt that sense of responsibility as in
Yeah.
your partner. So you, like, even though you're getting divorced, you never
Yeah.
lost that.
And I was trying to find a way to like adjust to life on my own, and to being a divorcee and a single lady who's doing her own thing.
Yeah.
I was trying to adjust to that, but I think I just hadn't gotten there. And of course, I still love Clint. I loved him through the whole thing. It's just I couldn't live with him. I couldn't live with his unhappiness. And when I myself was already unhappy and going through grief, and I'm just like, I can't live with someone who can't live. So,
Yeah. Oh
um,
wow, that's a really
I know.
interesting way to put it. I can't live with someone who can't live. Wow. So
Uh,
so the funeral proceedings, you guys are.
yeah. So he was buried up in Salt Lake. His family had a plot for him.
So was he buried or
He
cremated?
was buried. Yeah.
Wait, I thought you said
My dad was cremated.
your dad. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
just
You're
the
fine.
deaths are so close together in
I
my
know,
head.
and
I'm
they're both
sorry.
dudes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um yeah, Clint was buried, and I
Was that what he wanted, or he
nope.
wanted to be cremated?
We had talked about it. We had made like we wrote out what we wanted, because after my dad died, we're like, we have to know. We have to have this written out. We have to at least know what each other wants. and he wanted a natural burial where no one would see who he was. He also wanted his organs all donated, and if possible, he wanted his body donated to science, if possible.
Right.
But
And none of that happened.
no, he did not. The biggest thing was he expressed to me is he didn't want a Mormon funeral, but that's what he ended up getting, I guess.
How do you feel about that?
I'm pretty unhappy about it. I'm still unhappy, but I couldn't change things. Like, I feel like I didn't want to cause any more trouble or unhappiness with his family.
Right.
And I also felt like because I'd separated myself from him, that I now wasn't allowed to kind of make those decisions or say those things. Like, I felt like, well, now it's more his family
Yeah.
had him and was doing what they wanted.
And that's a strange thing, that even though you felt connected to them,
Yeah.
that you were emotionally intelligent enough to understand the gravity of the situation, the relationship, dynamic of the relationship between him and his parents, where
Yeah.
you understood that you had to like step back a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, I didn't want to fight it. And if that's what they needed, if that's what his
Right.
family needed, was this kind of uh, funeral proceeding to help them adjust and cope and, celebrate his life, then that's okay. Then that's what they need, because also in my mind, he's also dead. So there's not really anything he can say about it now. And
It's so interesting that his family is so disconnected to him
yeah,
that
they had no
he
idea.
didn't get they didn't know him enough to know what he would want in a
Yeah.
funeral, even though you knew, and
Yeah.
he didn't get what he wanted because they were so disconnected.
Yeah.
And they're probably, I wonder if they're like happy with the way things are, like the way they do.
I think they're happy with how it went for
Yeah.
them. I mean, of course they would be. It was in their church and they had prayers and bullshit like that. Sorry. It's just
Fine.
not stuff. I know it's stuff that he would not like. I know that he wouldn't have wanted any of that to be in a church, because he felt so separated from the Mormon church. Like, he asked to be removed from their records because he wanted to be separated from that religion.
Wow.
And so it was kind of upsetting for me that we had to have that. We had to have people pray over his body. But I also realized that it's what his family needed and wanted. And so I don't want to take that away from them. If it makes them feel better to do that and come together and say words that need to be said for them, then okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
How's it been since? Like, how do you?
I
mean, it's only a year.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally only a year.
Yeah.
How has it affected you?
Like,
moving, like,
it sucks. Like, I miss him all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I deal with all kinds of emotions. I'm constantly struggling with guilt because I forced him to move out. If I had kept him and if I'd comforted him and done more to try to draw him out of the depression he was in, like, that could have saved his life. He could still be here. We could still be married. We could still be going on that European trip we wanted to do and we're planning to do. It's like all these like dreams that we had together are suddenly gone.
Yeah.
And we spent years building them up, years saying, this is what we're going to do together. We bought this house and this is how we're going to make it our own house. And we're going to go and do these things. And now none of that is happening because he's not there. So I'm like trying to figure out how to live without him.
Yeah.
It's really odd.
Because you said you moved in when you were 18.
Yeah.
So that's like,
I've never lived
that's
alone.
A decade. It's a life. It's a new adjustment. Like it's kind of like a new life. It's like something you've never experienced before, right? Because like it's almost like starting fresh, kind of like a second take on life, I guess, if I should say it that way.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah,
it's like I'm starting a new chapter, so I'm figuring out. It's just me and my kitty cats.
You mentioned you felt guilty though, but like I listened to the story, and I can't judge because I wasn't there, but like I feel like you did everything you could have to prevent that, and it's like we said, hindsight's always 2020, so you could
Yeah.
always go back and like pick the memory apart.
Hmm.
But at least you're smart enough to like take him to the hospital and pay attention to like his moods and behaviors,
Yeah.
and like
And then we did counseling because I'm like, I want to try this before we do anything more. I want to have someone, some independent person help kind of mediate and help us work through this.
right.
I mean,
And
I
then who
tried.
knows, whoever in the planet knows that someone they love is ever gonna take their own life? Like
Yeah.
no one knows.
And
Like
I would not have ever thought that he would do that because he was never that kind of person. I was the suicidal person in our relationship. I had the emotions and the depression I struggled with, and I dealt with suicidal ideations and still do.
like to this
He,
day, you still contemplate
yeah,
suicide,
yeah. I still kind
knowing
of
what
think about
he
it.
did,
Huh?
knowing what he did. You like you
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, I mean, I almost went through with it a couple months ago because, and yeah, even knowing what it's like for other people afterwards, yeah, still want
what
to.
stopped you from?
I called the suicide hotline and talked to someone long enough that it released the immediate need
Yeah.
to end my life. Yeah.
Wow. I'm
Um,
sorry, because I've known you for more than a couple months, and that's like, I don't even want to hear it because it's like,
yeah.
it's just, please don't ever
Mm.
do that. If you ever feel like that, you can call me. But I do, like, I don't even know what to say to that because it's like,
Okay.
do you feel like there will ever be a day where you will actually go through with it? Or,
I don't know. I definitely thought there was. Sometimes I wish I had. Right now I don't, but there are sometimes like this week was a little hard because it was the anniversary of my dad's passing. So on Wednesday and Thursday, I was feeling really down and I was feeling really alone in it. Like I just didn't have, I don't know. And it just was overwhelming. And at that moment, I wasn't planning it. And I wasn't, but I was thinking that I wish I had killed myself because then I wouldn't be feeling the grief and isolation I feel now. That's what I was thinking this week a couple of times. So sometimes those thoughts go through my head.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've had those thoughts before. When I was, I don't want to take away from the gravity of what you just said, but when I was younger and I lived with my dad, I was drinking a lot. I was new to New York when I was like 17 and I started going to college. I mean, my dad have a strained relationship. Like it wasn't very good. Like it wasn't a pleasant relationship. And it's not a bad relationship now.
Yeah.
We get along really well. But I remember when I lived with him, the and I've never said this to you, but I'm very interested in Clint because like we have a lot in common. Like a lot of the things that you say that he experienced, I went through. Like,
Really?
yeah, when I was living with my dad, and I was just like, I feel like I had nobody, and I left all my family to Trinidad. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted, like, I thought I entertained the idea of suicide, and it was like a very, it was like, oh, it got to the point where it's just like, how am I going to do this? Am I
Mm-hmm.
going to,
Start planning
like, are you
it
gonna take?
or,
Am I gonna take a bunch of pills? Am I gonna,
uh huh.
it's just like start planning it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I got out of it, but I do remember like as I got older, I see a connection between alcohol consumption, my isolation, the relationships I was having because I was with someone I dated for 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then the girl I did after that, um, who I loved very much. I saw that when I was drinking, I started drinking because that person needed to confide in me, but at the same time, I needed someone to confide in, but didn't want to confide it with anyone because I didn't want
Mm-hmm.
to be dependent on anyone else
Yeah.
for support.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that I felt alone. I think that's what it is, like feeling alone.
Yep.
And then I realized
Mm.
that Well, now I realize because at the time I didn't know.
Well, no, you're lost in it. You can't see
Right,
clearly from the outside because
right.
you're in your own head.
Yeah, and then looking back on it, I feel like I was also I mature late. I think I'm a late bloomer in the sense that like I'm now figuring out my shit. And what helped me was to come to terms with, and I pushed my family away because of my relationship with my dad. I
Hmm.
wasn't talking to them, and now that I moved out to Arizona, I've been here like 2.5 years. Like I've started to reconnect with uncles
Yeah.
and aunts that
Interesting how distance can help you do
right.
that.
And a lot of it is just like me coming out on my own and being independent and saying,
Hmm.
okay, what do I want? What kind of life do I want for
Yeah.
myself? And then like being able to take certain risks and say, well, listen, you have to work. Like
Mm.
everyone has to provide for themselves, and like there's no
Hmm.
escaping it. So it's like,
Yeah.
and then I've been realizing later on in life, like you have to have a balance. Like you can't immerse yourself too much in one thing. Like when I first moved here, my job was everything, and then like I
Hmm.
started hiking, and I was like, okay, so if I don't work and then come home and just do nothing and drink when I get home,
Yeah.
and I actually like do something productive or read or like go hike or go to the gym,
Hmm.
that somehow in whatever it's worth balances your mind and like hormones or whatever is going on in your head. It helps like alleviate that pressure and responsibility of life because like it is, I mean, I don't say living is hard, but like
Living is fucking difficult.
it is, yeah, there's so much responsibility in this day
Yeah.
and age of things like, and that's why I say like I'm fascinated by Clint because like the interesting thing is like I've thought about how I used to think about suicide,
Uh huh.
and I remember, and now I'm like, wow, there was a point in time when I felt so alone and isolated that I wanted to kill myself, and then I realized like, would I do it now? And I tell myself, that's a decision.
Yeah.
That's a decision you have to make. Like there's a point where I had to come to terms with, okay, am I gonna choose to live and choose to decide whatever has happened? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that what made me close that door of
Mm-hmm.
like suicide
Mm-hmm.
is I've come too far.
Yeah. Like you've
I've
accomplished a lot
right.
and you've experienced so much already.
Well, yeah, and it's like the just because like the first 34 years of my life was challenging, like life is challenging. Like
Yeah.
that's just what life is,
Yep.
and it's how you deal with it. And then it's like getting better at dealing with things and then choosing to see what could happen next.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think that's how I kind of close that door is like, why would I make it through 34 years to end it now? It's like, it almost seems counterintuitive just
Mm-hmm.
from a logical standpoint. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, nah, like I've experienced good things in my life. There might be more of that to come. So it's like, and with age comes wisdom. So you kind of get smarter, or at least for me, like I got smarter, and I'm like, you know what? It there may be like rough points in the future,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been through rough points. So it's like if I made it through those rough points, I gotta make it through the next one. And I know what I did to like not deal with it properly in the past. So like now I'll just deal with it properly in the future. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And that's just like my reasoning and logic. I could be wrong, but it's been working for me so far. And it's just like at that point, I made the decision like, I'm never going to do it. I'm just never
Yeah.
going to do it. I'm going to take what comes. You know what I
Good.
mean?
Yes.
I want you to say that because like I don't. Well, that's something you need to figure out. But I
I'm
really,
working on it.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, I know. Um, I'm definitely a lot better than what I was back in like September. I don't know what it's going to be like next year when my wedding anniversary comes around and the anniversary of his death comes around again, but I was pretty down. Um,
But you know it's coming. Like you
yeah.
know the death of his anniversary is
Yeah.
coming. So you
Well,
know you're going to be sad. And if you
yeah.
know you're going to be sad, then you could prep for it. And then you
Well,
could say, when that time comes, I'm going to deal with it in a certain way so that the thought of, you know what I
exactly.
mean?
Where
Like,
it's like you're prepared for it and you prepare mentally for, okay, I know that's going to be this day or these couple of days. So what I can do is take these days off and do something that's for me, something that's more self care and supportive and constructive,
right.
and have it prepared ahead of time. So you're
Yeah.
like, you have a strategy ready to go and you have a number ready to call in case like you need to speak with someone within. And
Right.
it's like, it's also not just the day. It's not the day. It's like leading up to the day can be so,
That anxiety of like
yeah,
getting
like
to
it's
that.
just, oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's on its way. And probably like I should
Why is there so much weight on it, if you don't mind me asking? Like
I have
when
no idea. I don't know if it's just because I see it's coming. I know that, well, my counselor told me that like the first one is always the hardest because that's your first time like,
dealing with the
yeah.
anniversary of, right?
Yeah.
So all right, so you made it past the year.
Yeah, I made it
Okay,
through a
so mystery
year.
solved. That's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what I liked, my psychiatric nurse, she said to me, you know, instead of focusing on the day that he died, like turn it around and find his birthday and focus on that and celebrate that and make that, put that in your calendar so it stands out and you do something special on that day. And then you diminish the day that he died because that's not what defines him. It's not the suicide, the way that he died that defines who he is. It's his life and who he was. So instead, it's better to celebrate on his birthday because that's, you know,
Yeah.
a better
I
better
don't
way to
know.
remember him.
Are they? Do they have a doctorate in psych? So I used to visit a psychologist, and a
Mm-hmm.
psychologist, not for
Mm-hmm.
my negative thoughts. So they just like wanted to figure out who I was and like where my life's heading, and like
Mm-hmm.
just trying to piece it all together.
Okay.
And I never went on medication because I feel like I don't know what's it like being on
I don't know. I mean, my head gets buzzy when I don't take my medication, but
buzzy,
otherwise, yeah,
like bzzz.
yeah,
Really?
like
That's interesting.
I get headache if I miss I miss my antidepressant, then I will get like a headache and then my head gets fuzzy and like it's like I can feel like a vibration. I don't know, it's not the right word, but I feel like noise or something going on in my brain and it just makes it difficult to
Is that a
focus.
result of becoming dependent on the
Well,
medication?
yeah, because
Yeah.
it's, uh, chemicals in my brain.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm providing them with the medication I'm taking. So when I skip a day and it's not getting that regular medication it's used to getting, then yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, and that's good. It's good. I feel like sharing it is good.
Um,
But
I,
the before you get like I know you brought notes, but
well,
before you get to that, I wanted to say like I'm pretty sure until you and like anyone listening, even you if you feel like you want to like not live anymore, I feel like if you text anybody in your phone, like anyone in your phone, and you say, "Hey, I don't feel like living right now," like that's a different weight. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you reach out to anyone, they might actually come through to you. You know what I mean? And if that person doesn't try another one, you know.
I guess that's part of the mind fuckery is that feeling of worthlessness and like I don't have friends. Like I could see it with Clint, the way he isolated and separated himself from his friends. They wanted to help him, but he's
Right.
just like, no, I don't want to put my burden on you. And that's kind of how I feel, where it's like with the immense grief I feel, I don't want to share the sadness with anyone because I don't want to bring anyone else down with me.
It's funny how that works because I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. And then with,
But the point is, you have to understand that you're in your own head right now. Like
right. And
and you
that's what's
don't want to.
hard. It's hard to escape that. It's hard when it's overwhelming and you're stuck in that thought loop. You can say, yeah, just think yourself out of it. Think yourself out of it. That's
Yeah, but
the thing is you
I don't think
can't.
right. But I'm not saying you have to think yourself out of it.
Yeah.
I'm saying reach out to somebody so
Okay.
that they can put your trust in someone else. Because I think in
Okay.
that point, it's like
I wonder where the responsibility lies. Does it lie in the person who is feeling depressed and suicidal to reach out? Or is there responsibility in their friends and family to notice and to reach out themselves and be there?
well,
Is
is
it
it?
a
It's a
common?
combination of both. I
Yeah.
think, right? Like, I mean, if you're like when I'm going through something, I'll reach out to my family in New York now that I never reached out before
Hmm.
when I lived there.
Yeah.
And they're strangely enough, the uncles that are supportive of me now are uncles that I wasn't very close to at all. And it's so strange the bond I feel to them now because like
Wow, kind of funny how that turned out.
yeah, and it's like wow, like I can't believe that things change for the better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like us reaching out to each other, like they
Mhm.
reaching out, like, and it starts with, "Hey, how are you?" You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, and then one day I was just
Exactly.
like, "Fuck it, I'm not doing good, man. I don't know what I'm going through with my boss." And then
Yeah.
you know what happened? I posted something on Facebook. I was like, I think I posted like, man, I don't know what's happening. Like, I don't know what I'm doing myself. Who am I becoming? And my two of my uncles saw it, and they were like, one lives in Florida, one lives upstate New York, and they both called me and they were like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I'm not okay. Like,
Mhm.
my job is so stressful, and like, I don't know
Yeah.
what the fuck I'm doing. I'm not making the money. I'm not married. I'm 34 and I'm single. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it's just like,
I
and
know.
then they say things like, "Man, we've all been there," and I
Yeah.
think that's what people miss too. It's like the feelings you're feeling, like where you,
You're not alone.
yeah, like other people have experienced
I
that.
mean,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah, there are thousands of other
million, I
people who
think
have.
millions and millions, possibly even billions of people on the
Yeah.
face of the planet at some point have been like
But that's so funny how it's just you feel so alone in it.
in that moment, right?
Yeah, like you're in your own mind space. I don't know. For days leading up to when I wanted to kill myself, like
But you're not alone. That's what I'm saying.
I
Like,
know, but you feel like it. I don't know if it's the way, like if I push people away. Sometimes it feels like you can tell people how you feel, but I don't know.
yeah, no, I get it because like the one that got away relationship wise, I pushed her away.
Yeah.
My grandfather was dying.
Mhm.
I started drinking again. She was making more money than me. My career was in the dump. And then
Yeah.
when I needed her the most is when I said, I don't think this relationship is working out. And
Yeah.
I feel so stupid for doing that because now I'm like, I should have just said, hey, I really need you right now. Like, I really need you right now. And it's
Yeah.
just like, this is my ego of like not willing to admit that I need somebody else was. And looking
Mhm.
back on it like 3 years later, it's like, that should have played out differently if I had just not.
Just
Yeah,
told her, been like, dude, not feeling well.
yeah. And and part of me at the time wanted to blame her. Like, you see my life and how it's going, and you're not reaching out. Like, you're not being there for me. Like, I need you. But it's like
Yeah.
everyone sees things from their own point of view. So it's like if you
Yeah.
want someone involved in your life a certain way, you just ask. And it's
True.
like the podcast. Like I wanted you to be on it, and so I asked you, and you did it. And this
Yeah.
makes me so happy that you actually had the courage to like
Ah,
come and talk.
yeah. Put my story out there.
Yeah.
Well, it's my husband's story anyway.
No, it's your story because you're like
Yeah.
he's not with us anymore, but you are. So it's
Yeah.
like it's your story. But anyway, so you brought some information.
Well, I did. I don't know. I guess you can cut this out if it ends up being a little too boring.
It's no, go for it.
Okay.
It's anything that
So
helps.
I did do some little bit of research. Okay, I have to say that I've spent a lot of time reading about methods of suicide. Like,
Ways to kill yourself.
yeah,
Please,
and
I don't
I've
want you to share that.
no, that's not what I'm sharing. I'm just saying that I have done that. I read into the best kind of ways to do it, different methods and
There's
survivability.
no best way to kill yourself.
No,
Just,
there's not. There's no good way to kill yourself because you shouldn't fucking do it. Don't kill yourself.
hey,
Just
I'm glad you're getting it.
I know, right? But one of the things I did find fascinating as I was like doing that research,
Yeah.
like one of the things I do to like talk myself out of it was reading statistics about it. What do people find? You know, how does this affect the families afterwards? What's the trauma like? But some of the statistics just about suicide that I did find fascinating is like that males like are they're 4 times higher, 4 times likelier than women to kill themselves, and they're more successful at it. Like
Ugh.
I know. Like women will do it.
What does that mean for? I mean, I don't mean to
It's
make
like
light of such a heavy situation, but what does that mean for
it
gender inequality? Like,
well,
do
I don't know, but it's interesting. Like women, it's like they will do it, but it's not as successful. Like when they attempt to commit suicide, it's not as successful, and it seems to be more done as a statement. And then
like a
men,
cry for help kind of? If
yeah,
that is a
yeah,
term,
it's just you know, it's yes, it's a cry for help, which is a legitimate thing. Please, it's
right?
not when someone does try to commit suicide, they're not just seeking attention because they're attention whores. They're doing it because they are in pain and they need help.
Right.
So I think it's really unfair when people see folks who have attempted it and then dismiss it like they're just emotional. That's very unkind.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think that's interesting. It's like men are just much more, you know, wanting to get it
Unfortunately.
done, and they're more likely to use firearms to kill themselves.
Jesus.
Um, and then I also found it interesting. Well, I mean, this is all from the what is this? The National Institute of Mental Health. Those are the stats I pulled. And did you know American Indians and Alaskan natives are like or have the highest rate of suicide?
What?
Yeah, they're higher than white females and males. It's
Females
interesting.
and males, white males,
Yeah.
the Native Americans are more likely to
Yep.
kill themselves than
Yeah.
white.
Yep, they are.
Jeez, why is that?
I have no idea. I mean, maybe that says something
As
about
if they
how
haven't
we treat.
suffered enough.
I know,
Jesus.
right? Just how we treat other cultures and people.
Yeah.
Um, and I did want to kind of discuss because this is such a heavy topic. I wanted us to spend some time talking about like things that you can say to people if you're noticing them feeling suicidal or if you're noticing them feeling down. Like, I feel like we could share with the listeners just some things that could be said
Yeah.
um, to help people. I don't know, like, because I feel like maybe people don't talk to those who are depressed because they think, well, I don't want to say anything in case like that makes it worse or I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So, like, after thinking upon it, I feel like one of the biggest things that someone can just say is that they'll listen to you and like to ask questions and just say, tell me about it. Like, tell me how you're feeling to make the conversation happen, to start it, to ask someone and encourage them to share it. Because I know I myself like keep it to myself because I don't want to burden anyone else with my white female problems, that
I don't think
I
your
know.
problems
I
pick a
know.
gender. I know. I'm sorry.
I know. It's so weird. It's just, I feel like no one wants to hear it. And I try to reach out and I do and I want to. And so
Yeah.
logically, I'm constantly fighting that battle. But it's also nice to hear like my friends actually ask me about and say, you're not looking so great today, or you look a little sad. Like, what's going on? What's on your mind? And then to like continue to probe. So even if someone says, yeah, I'm feeling depressed, or if they were even to open up and say, I'm feeling suicidal, like, talk to them about it because like studies have shown that actually talking to people about it reduces their risk because they're actually opening up and they can have a discussion with someone rather than it continuing to be in their mind,
Yeah.
so they can see that there is an option other than death.
Sounds logical.
And then one of those other things that I heard this on a podcast and it stuck with me, but and I think I said this earlier, but that like suicide is a way that people die and it's not what defines them. So it's like when you're talking about someone who has passed or has, they
Yeah.
killed themselves, like to talk about them as people and not as like the mode of death as like that's the thing that defines
Right.
them. I
Yeah.
don't
Because
know.
it's a strange thing that we do as
Like it's
people
just a
being alive.
stigma.
Yeah. Like we
Yeah.
kind of like it's weird, and I think it has to do with like I mean I'm guessing I don't know, but if I had to guess, I would say it's kind of like this primordial
Mm.
human being thing where it's just like, oh, he didn't make it. He wasn't strong enough.
Yeah.
So like
Like
that person doesn't deserve
they
to
were
be
weak.
respected. Right.
Yeah, and that
Right.
the suicide is like it's a like a bad thing, an embarrassing thing that it's
Right. Like we
you're
stigmatize it. But I feel
yeah.
like that's more like a animal creature thing in our brain that
Yeah.
happens, as opposed to us saying like we fail that person as a
Yeah.
community or as a society. When that's
Yeah.
if we took that approach, then
Mhm.
things might end up differently for a lot of people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like we
Well,
just like
instead of like it's a very having more of the communal idea, the wanting to as a society help and support everyone rather than, pushing away those who aren't as well off as us or don't have the same mental health capacity as others do.
right,
Like to look at someone and say, well, you're weak because you suffer from depression and you're
right.
not trying hard enough, so you don't deserve as much of my compassion. You don't deserve any of my compassion
Just get
because,
stronger.
yeah,
Like
just
just
get
get
over
stronger.
it.
Get over it. Yeah.
Yeah, like I have been told to get over it, or I've been told that like my depression doesn't compare to someone with epilepsy. That, well, since I don't have epilepsy, I shouldn't
Yeah.
complain.
Bob Marley says everybody thinks their burden is the heaviest. And
Yeah.
that always it's stuck in my head forever because I
Mhm.
remember like when I was younger, I was a teenager when I first started listening to Bob Marley, and like it's true. Like
Yeah.
you don't know what I'm going through, and
Right.
I don't know what you're going through. So
Yeah.
why play the comparison game? Why
Exactly.
can't we just like be there for each other? You
I
know what I
know.
mean?
And
And
it's
it's
like
just like,
your own struggles are your own. And I can still be compassionate towards you and empathetic, or at least sympathetic. Sympathetic.
well, both,
Even if
yeah,
I haven't experienced it, I can still give you some compassion, you know?
yeah.
I,
So I have a question for you, just
uh huh.
because like you have a lot of experience in.
Mm.
Um, I have one question before I ask that question.
Hmm.
Do you know if suicide rates are going up or are they going down?
Oh, they've increased. Yeah, they're definitely.
Jesus. How much well, not fun facts, but how much information do you get? Like, spit out some stuff. I'm so
Okay.
curious right now.
Okay. I
Go
mean, I
for it.
shared some of them. I don't. They're mostly charts. Like, okay. Oh my God, you have to see this one. This like suicide rates in the U.S. It's a map of the U.S. and it shows which states have like the highest suicide rates and then the lowest.
Yeah.
And it's like this big block,
Jesus Christ, that is
right?
where we live.
Like, look
Holy
at this.
moly.
What is going on right
Here,
here?
yeah, you can point into that
I
camera.
know. It's like this like little column of what is going on in I mean
Can I see
Montana,
that?
that makes sense, but then like
Jesus.
through Idaho, Utah, Colorado to Arizona. I mean, there are other states, and
Can
they
I say something about this? Can I
please
comment on this?
go ahead.
So I lived in New York, and
Mhm.
people give New Yorkers such a hard time. But I lived there for 16 years,
Mhm.
and people say New Yorkers are really harsh and they're nasty people and they're rude. But New York is one of the lighter colors.
Yeah.
And what I personally have experienced since I moved to New York from Arizona, to
Uh-huh.
Arizona from New York, is that Arizonans are way more divisive. They'll look at you like if I told someone who lives in Scottsdale, I live in Tempe, they automatically assign these lists of traits to me
Yeah.
that, and you could see it on their face.
Oh
They're like,
no.
"Oh,
We're so segregated and we
right."
stereotype everyone here. It's like in
It's so
Scottsdale, if you live
interesting.
in Scottsdale, you're a snob. If you live in Tempe, you're just like,
A party person,
yeah.
yeah, or like you're living in a bad neighborhood or
And
whatever.
do they not have that in New York where it's like if you live in this borough, you're white trash. If you live
Fun
in
fact: Arizona as a state per capita
uh-huh.
has way more violent crimes than New York. Believe it or not.
Really?
And
Oh,
grand larceny, which is breaking and entering. So
Jesus.
so people in Arizona think that it's New York is such a hard like
I wonder how
things
many
happen.
I wonder how many people who think that haven't even been there and experienced New York.
That's the other thing too. I mean, listen, I'm not dogging in Arizona because I am an Arizona. I live in Arizona, and I actually really like the geography here. And I've
Yeah.
met good people like yourself here,
Thank you.
and good people at my job. But it's just like people just really need to be more educated. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
stop listening to the media. The media is Instagram, and Snapchat
And
is
just
not real life.
stop being so hateful. That's it. Like everyone, I feel like a lot of the people I interact with, they're nice people, but there are those who carry like this hatred in their mind. And it's like, I don't know, some of it's racism, but they just can't imagine living in another person's shoes. They can't put themselves in someone else's situation. So they just see it from their own perspective.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody. You're right about that. It's just like, and that's empathy, right?
Yeah.
That's the inability
Mhm. Empathize with
to
another
put
human being.
yourself in someone else's shoes and say, how do they feel in this situation, not how I feel about them being in that situation.
Yes.
It's like, what would I do or how would I feel? And it's like, I was talking to somebody. I've had this conversation a lot with
Mhm.
people, and people are scared. People are scared to feel. I think people are afraid of emotion. And I think once you face emotion head on and you process it, you can get past it.
Yeah.
But most people are afraid of change, so they're afraid to go through emotion and then figure it out. And because maybe they're afraid that the person that they might become after is not somebody that they would like. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's like I'm not a psychologist, but I don't know.
Yeah, I know. We can speculate as much as we want over
Right.
here
But
in
those are
our
just
little
my
corner
theories,
of
right?
who's offended.
Say yeah. In our literal corner. Well, thanks for bringing it. What else you got here? You went through this before.
Yeah, let's see. What else do we have? Goes without saying that firearms are the most successful and common method for suicide.
Yeah.
I do find it interesting. Okay, this one's good. So 56% of men, this is all male, that's across races, use a firearm in suicide. But women, it's more 30% use a firearm and 30% poisoning.
That would
So,
be like sleeping pills and whatnot.
yeah,
I'm assuming.
medication.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that's like a larger percentage of men will use the most deadliest form to kill
How do you
themselves.
feel about firearms? As like, do you feel like because that's a hot topic right now? Like,
Well, yeah.
do you feel like? I mean, looking at this just from a statistical standpoint of suicide, do you feel like because there's always a
I
debate
know.
of like, should we get rid of guns in this
I
country?
know, right?
Like, is it worth having guns just because of these statistics? Like the enjoyment people feel from owning a gun. I'm just curious what your opinion is.
To be completely honest, I don't think guns are necessary. I feel like they are weapons to do damage, and that there are so many people who are irresponsible um, with them, and that
Yeah.
it's too easy for irresponsible people to use them.
Right.
But I believe that people, I do believe that people should have the right to own a firearm. I just believe that it should be harder, or not harder. I think that people should be more educated in it. I don't want to put up roadblocks to prevent people from accessing a right that is theirs. I think that people need to know how to use these firearms. And
Yeah.
it's not just you can use a handgun, you can use any kind. I believe there should be like a lot of training involved, safety measures.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't mean to cut you off,
Go
but
ahead.
at the same time, like when it comes to the suicide,
Yeah.
those people know how to use it safely.
Yeah. I mean,
It's just it was an intention. I think it more has to do with like, because I feel like we're never gonna get rid of firearms in the U.S. and so
No.
we should stop having that debate. Like,
Yeah.
stop having a conversation because we're never gonna get there, right? What is
Mhm.
it, Second Amendment or
Yeah,
First
it's our
Amendment?
Second Amendment.
Yeah.
First Amendment is the freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech, right? So
Yeah, it's like
it's not going anywhere. Like
I
like
know.
guns aren't going anywhere. So I
And
feel like our
even if
biggest problem in this country right now is mental health.
Yeah,
Like it's the one thing that
I
is,
completely
and I hate
agree.
to get on that bandwagon, but it's like, why is it the biggest
It's
thing
not a
right now?
bandwagon, it's a major public issue. It's like
So what do we do?
I mean, I think it goes back to healthcare. Healthcare in this country is majorly messed up. It's a for profit industry. And I feel like because of that, you can see why mental health has been such a problem in our country. Like, when you make a profit off of someone's sickness, you don't have any real motivation to make them better or to
Yeah.
make the rest of the country better. So I
Yeah.
feel like if we fix healthcare and it's something I because I think some of the issues maybe, and this is just me postulating my one little mote
Yeah,
of
yeah. No,
dust in
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
universe here, but it's like if people have easier access to mental health facilities, that is talking to someone, or being able to get medication without having to go through the high cost and all. I don't know. I think if you make it easier and you remove the price tag from it and you make it available everywhere, that will help.
I feel like everything we talked about today was so good. Like
Yeah.
in its own way, it was informative. Thank you for thanks for sharing and doing this with me.
Thank you for inviting me on and letting me tell my story. I hope your listeners can take something from this, if anything, just to listen to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not alone. Even though you feel like it, even though it
No,
might seem like that, you're really not alone.
I know.
Yeah.
Depression just, it doesn't let you see the love that other people have to give.
Yeah. I've
So,
struggled with depression myself too. And one thing I've realized is like I have control over it. I
yeah.
have you can't you could take control of it.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
started working at a job. My boss is pretty decent, fortunately. My
Hmm.
workload's decent enough. It's manageable, but it like you have to do things for yourself.
Hmm.
Sometimes it means not isolating yourself, but understanding some people may not. They might love you and have your best interests at heart, but it might also be you have to separate yourself from certain people.
Yeah.
And they might have like a negative impact of just them being in your life and
I mean, if that's what it takes for you to feel better, if you need to remove toxic
people,
people, then
and then hang around people that will say kind words to you and be nice and
yes.
also take care of yourself. Don't
Yeah.
like alcohol. I'm trying to cut out alcohol right now, but the more time goes on, but where I don't drink,
Mhm.
I'm slowly just becoming like more. My mood is leveled out. My
Yeah.
emotions are leveled out. I'm like such in a good place right now. I'm almost like waiting for the media to strike. I'm almost like, one of these days, my phone's gonna ring and I'm gonna get the worst news in my life, and I'm not no gonna. But that's gonna happen in life regardless. Like whether it happens today or 10 years from
You
now.
need to just be prepared for that so
Right.
it doesn't
Right.
bully you over, you know?
But you can't let that. And I'm just indulging in my own self talk. Like you can't let that stop happiness on a day to day
Yeah.
basis. Like exercise is very important. Eating healthier is very important. Fruits and vegetables. I mean, it sounds so stupid and
I know
basic, but
it's the
it's like,
simplest things, but when you make your body healthy,
yeah,
like giving that healthy vessel for your mind,
yeah.
amazing what it can do.
Do you feel like you're in a better place now, considering everything, or How do you feel about everything that's passed so far?
I don't know. It changes from day to day.
Yeah,
Overall, though, you know what? I feel good. Like, I am happy. I'm happy I'm here. That I have my fur babes, my two cat boys at home, and that I have a home and that it's beautiful and it's what I want it to be. And it's just, I think about things like that. I have family and I appreciate all of it. And I am happy, even though some shit stuff has happened. Like,
yeah.
I think I'm actually in a pretty good place.
Good. I'm
Yeah.
glad. I want you to be happy. And I want to see you grow old. I don't want to be
If the
there when you
climate
grow
lets
old, but
us.
yeah, you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
no bad news, please.
I know.
Um, yeah, I think we did 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Oh my god.
And it doesn't feel like it feels like an
Yeah.
hour. Yeah,
It passed really quickly.
I know. Thank you.
That was
Thanks a lot.
good. Thank
How do
you
you
so
feel about
much.
it? Like, yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, that was good. I
Was it?
liked it. Like
Yeah,
you said, you kind of forget that you're wearing headphones and you just relax and just get into the discussion.
good.
Yeah.
I hope that the experience is beneficial, and I hope that you leave here not regretting you did it, and I hope
No.
that you feel good that you shared it because even in the short term, if you get like, I've never done this before, so even if there's negative backlash to anything we've said, I feel like the message long term will withstand whatever. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
hope so.
yeah,
That's all
I
I
just
can hope for is like I'm putting this out there so people can see kind of how something has happened. I don't know, maybe use it for their own life or if anything, be opened up to it because there are people who have never had a suicidal thought or in their life.
right.
And so this is kind of just a window into a different
Yeah,
life experience. So,
absolutely.
um, yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, Kevin.
No, thank you. Thanks for coming on. It's really brave that you did it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.